Welcome to Windsor Castle. Here we go. Pretty impressive so far.
This is Greg. Welcome back to Greg Express Travels. Now we're going to hear from our Golden Tours guide, Stefan, about a little history of Windsor Castle. So stay tuned. I think you'll really enjoy it.
So there's a load of kings and queens who've lived there. They've all added their own bits and pieces to the castle. But I will go through those kings and queens later on. But first of all, how did it all begin? Why is it here in the first place? Well, to explain why, I need to take you back in time to the year 1066. Now, at this time, we have a king in charge called Edward the Confessor. But what does he have to confess to? Guys, Heathrow is next door, so I don't know why they built a castle next to an airport, honestly. Anyway, so yes, Edward the Confessor was the king in 1066, and he was a very religious man. He took a vow of celibacy, meaning that although he has a wife, he never engages in, let's just call it baby-making activity. And because of that, no children to pass a crown on to. Now, he is dying at this point, and there are three people who are rubbing their hands together, they're eagerly waiting for him to draw his last breath so they can claim the throne of England. Now, the first one of those people is a man called Harold Godwinson, or Harold Saxon, as the English people were Anglo-Saxons back then. Now, Harold Saxon, he was actually very well respected by all the knights and nobles of the country. They believe that he has what it takes to become king, but he has no right to the English throne whatsoever. We can move a few inches, go on. He has no right to the English throne whatsoever, but he knows that the English people were very gullible back then, so he uses that to his advantage. He actually tells them all that he was there on Edward the Confessor's deathbed, and he heard Edward's last words, which were that he should become king next.
All hail King Stefan!
That's Anna Banana. She has a banana on the same. She's the one who trained me. So any information, if I'm lying to you, it's all her fault. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Harold Godwinson. He tells the people that that Edward said that he should be the next king, and they all believed him. And yes, he was crowned king the very next morning. So there you go, that somehow worked. But there are two people who are very angry about this. The next person I'm going to talk about is a man called Harold. It's also called Harold, so it gets a little bit confusing. His name is Harold Hardrada. He is the king of Norway at the time. He's a vicious Viking warrior. He spends his whole life raiding villages, burning places to the ground. Lots of bad things, but he's ready again for another war. But the reason he didn't invade England earlier was because he made a deal with Edward the Confessor. Now, Edward said, please do not invade us, because when I die, you can peacefully take the country. This is, you can be the next king. Which he agrees to, but then he sees another imposter called Harold on the throne instead. He's clearly very angry about this. Next up, we have a man called William of Normandy, soon to be known as William the Conqueror. That's a little bit of a spoiler for you guys. So William is somewhat related to the king, so that as a result, or his great-grandfather is related to the king, so there's a slight relation there, but it still counts in his eyes. He believes that he's the only one who is the rightful heir to the English throne. So as a result, he gets ready for war. Yes, he gets his army together. He gets them on the coast of Normandy, ready to set sail to England. But there's a spot of bad weather. Yes, there's a storm brewing. He's not able to cross the English Channel, and it's a little bit awkward because his army's just staying there, just staring at the English army who are on the English coast for about 2 months. They're just both staring at each other, waiting for something to happen, and nothing happens. So eventually, Harold is told by his advisors that William's probably not going to invade. He's too much of a chicken to do so. So Harold moves his army away from the English coastline, says relax, and that's that. For now, because there's a little bit of a problem, because guess who's arrived in the north? It's the Vikings! Yeah, they've arrived. So William gets his army back to, not William, Harold gets his army back together again and marches all the way up north in just 4 days to face off against Harold Hardrada, who's just landed in York and he's doing what he does best, which is burning villages to the ground. So, Harold versus Harold. Guess who wins?
Harold.
Yeah! And that's the end of the story, thank you. No, Harold Godwinson wins. The Harold Saxon, they're the same person. Harold Godwinson, the Saxon king, wins this battle against the Vikings. And the reason the Vikings lose is funny for us, not for the Vikings, but they decide to sunbathe. Genuinely, yeah, the weather was like this apparently that day, and they decide to sunbathe, they relax. It's a lot warmer than it is in Norway, so they leave all their armour on board their Viking ships. So when the English troops arrive, they don't expect them to arrive that quickly from the south. They have to fight without any armour on. So the Vikings lose pretty quickly because of this. But despite this, the English troops, or the Anglo-Saxons at the time, they still lose quite a few men. And also, there's no time to relax, no time to celebrate this victory. Because guess who's arrived down south? It is William and the Normans. They have arrived down south. So Harold, can't relax. He has to go all the way down south, straight from fighting one war, straight into fighting another. So guys, it is Harold versus William at the Battle of Hastings, still in 1066. Now, William, he's a very clever man. He's studied the English army, and he knows that they are great defensively. They stand on top of very well defended hills. They put all the shields together, they strike with their spears downwards. But on the attack, he knows that it's pretty much every man for themselves. There's no strategy, there's no tactics going on when they're attacking. So William knows the only way to beat Harold is to get Harold to attack him somehow. Now, how does he do that? Well, he pretends that he is dead, which, just hear me out on this one. It does somehow work. He pretends he's dead, and William's army, the Normans, they all start to retreat. They start shouting, "William is dead." And then Harold's army, they overhear this, and they think, oh, if their leader's dead, let's just finish the army off once for all. So they start charging down the hill, away from all their defenses. And then once they get to the bottom of the hill, they realize they made a big mistake, because William, at that point, takes off his helmet and says, "Ta-da, I'm still here, surprise." And at that point, he orders his archers to fire a rain of arrows, and one of those arrows ends up hitting Harold Godwinson straight in the eye, and that kills him. So, that is the end of the Anglo-Saxons ruling in this country, and the start of the Normans. William is crowned King of England, and forever to be known in history as William the Conqueror. But guys,
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that little history lesson from our tour guide, Stefan, about Windsor Castle. I enjoyed bringing it to you, and I hope you take time today to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Greg Express Travels, and I'll see you on the next video from London.